Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about communities, and I'm immediately going to go on to what might appear to be a bit of a detour, and it'll take us right back to the heart of the subject matter. So I've just finished another Plant Spirit Medicine retreat with phenomenal results for everyone concerned. Such real deep work being done by everyone. Everyone's worked incredibly hard and very, very pleased with it. And here I am in the location of the retreats, and it just so happens that we have a hectare of land here, and that's going to feed into what I want to talk about a bit later. And now where I want to begin is I want to begin with some research that was done in Brazil. There was a particular time back in the 1950s and 60s when many of the third world countries were simply adopting United Nations legislation, which was all originally fronted from the USA. And there was one agenda, which was to criminalise many plants, most particularly powerful healing plants. And so this was done, and the Brazilian government, like the governments of many other countries in Central and South America, they made the plant spirit medicine, what some people refer to as ayahuasca, as illegal. And this was a really big deal because actually there were a lot of people consuming this medicine in this country. And Brazil is a fascinating country and worth a real load of study, because what the government decided to do when there was an outcry about this legislation, they did something which is very rare in government practice. They decided to do some sensible, intelligent, scientific research on the subject. And it took some time to do this, and so scientists were paid to research communities, that is villages and small towns where nobody consumed these plant spirit medicine, and then other communities, villages and small towns where the consumption of these healing plants was normal and part of everyday life. And the results of the research were completely obvious, because as you would probably expect by now, it turns out that the communities where the plant spirit medicine was part of the daily life of the people, there was either low or no crime, and the quality of life of people was much better. There was much more social interaction and community cohesion, and people were there for each other, helped each other, and were really in tune with each other. And the results were so obvious, so conclusive, that the government did something which is very rare. All the way back in the 1960s, I believe it was, the government actually overturned the legislation and made the plant spirit medicine legal. And there are 3 ways which you can consume the plant medicine in Brazil, which are totally legal, and that will be a subject of another film. But let's get back to the main point. What I want to do in this film is to talk to you about community. Now, I've recently posted a film about my experience in Middlewood, and so there's a lot of information there which is leading up to what I wish to talk to you about now. Now, what I'm so interested by in terms of the people that are coming to the retreats is that I'm noticing there's a feeling inside many people, and the feeling can be described as a longing for something. And the longing that people feel that are coming to these retreats is the longing for community. It seems to be, without doubt, the most significant part of the event. And I'm hearing people say time after time now that it's less about the medicine and it's more about everything else that goes on at these retreats, which is why I've started to recently rebrand them as Nature's Medicine Retreats rather than simply Plant Spirit Medicine Retreat, because actually the retreat comprises so many aspects and facets, and these are to do with the power of nature. And because people come to this wonderful piece of land and have their experience, it's so much easier for people to get into a community state of being. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take a pause on the film, and we're going to prepare ourselves to show you around so you can get a flavour of what a hectare of land is like. And while this is happening, I'll be explaining to you where I see things going further in the future. So let me take you for a walk around this hectare of land. So let's get back to what I was speaking about earlier in terms of Brazil and communities where the plant spirit medicine is so very effective in producing community cohesion, and the bottom line is that the people love and care for each other. So then I go to the next part of where I want to talk about communities, which is this idea of a hectare of land. Now, as you have seen in the Middlewood film, the main point I was making in that film is that when a lot of people live on the land which belongs to one person, this creates a fundamental inequality which on a human psychological level cannot be undone. So the communities I'm interested in is as follows. I'm strongly influenced by this Russian writer called Vladimir Megre, and he wrote a series of 9 books where he talked about the concept of a domain. And a domain is defined as 1 hectare of land which is occupied by a minimum of 1 person and a maximum of 1 family. So what I'm attempting to do with this film is to give you a bit of a flavour about what a hectare of land actually looks like. Now, the area on the right has been almost completely clear-felled just about a year ago, and that's been done first of all to produce wood for fire and also wood for building. So here's one of the really curious and fascinating properties about a hectare of land. If you choose to read Vladimir Megre's books, you will see the research has been done which shows that that amount of land is sufficient for you to be able to have enough land to grow the crops that you want to eat for food, which may include animals if you want to be consuming food from animals, whether as a vegetarian, whether it's eggs, or as a meat eater. And it also allows sufficient space for you to be able to have enough trees which you can cut on a regular rotation basis to provide you enough wood for your firewood supply, and also for building purposes, to build yourself a home and to add to it on that piece of land. And also in this calculation is enough land for you to be able to choose a cash crop, which means there's something you can grow and earn some extra money for. And this is a very important part of his whole principle, is to create a situation where the land is sufficiently large enough to support the people living on it. So that's a very important point to get across to you. So that's the idea of the hectare, and it's something that I have been inspired by since I first read his books. So now what I want to do is to take us to the next part of this story. So we have the idea of a hectare being sufficient for 1 person up to a family to manage, and we have the idea that people who consume the plants for medicine, should they choose to get together to form a community, are going to have the community cohesion which is necessary to make it work. And this is where the Middlewood experiment was so vital for me to actually see what happened without that community cohesion. If you want to find out more, just go back to that film. So here we are at the entrance to the land. This is all to give you some perspective. So now what we're going to do is I'll use this old-fashioned term, we'll beat the bounds of the land, which means we will literally explore as much of the periphery as it's possible to do so within the limitations of the camera and the lead and the microphone. So let's continue in putting these pieces together. If there is a group of people that recognises a mutual longing, which is to get it together in community, if they were to be wise enough to choose to pool their resources, then this would put them into the position where they could consider buying a piece of land which would be sufficient to provide 1 hectare for each family group, plus a minimum of 1 extra hectare, which would then be available as community space. And this would allow something really quite remarkable to unfold for those people. So long as the plant spirit medicine is a part of the experience of these people, it means that these who are getting together have got this link. And it's the same as the powerful link that is provided by religion or by other forces which seem to work very successfully to create communities which endure and thrive. Now I'm going to take you back to 2012, back to December 2012, when there was a lot of expectation amongst people that there was going to be something called a new Earth was going to be created. And if you've seen my films, you know that I bought into this as much as many other people did. And I look back with some amusement now, because of course it reflected the part of us that had the desire to have everything done for us and to make it easy. And actually the way things work is, this is how I see it now in 2014. I see the new Earth as something that we co-create, those of us who choose to do so. And I see this longing for community as a really essential step in the process towards making a new Earth. And I draw my attention back to Vladimir Megri's main point, which is as follows. When a group of people get together and they buy their own land and they want to create their own communities, this is the question that each family is asked to address is this: how do I create paradise on earth? That's the question. And it is the living your life on your hectare of land that provides you with your answer as you hone and polish what your vision of paradise on earth is over time. By now I hope you are able to see that a hectare of land, in terms of living for a family, is really quite a considerable piece of land. It's enough land to have little quiet places tucked away that are not so regularly used, main areas where there's more human traffic, and areas that are left completely alone for the wildlife. This is all possible on this size of land. And so this brings me to my next point, which is the reason why I feel it's very important for this group of people who are each getting together to have their hectare of land each. They go ahead and actually get an extra hectare so that there can be one space which is for community use, where they can build a building, and when they choose to do so they can come together, and that can be their communal space and their space that they can invite people from the outside world into to celebrate with them. And this is another key theme that I'm picking up on very strongly, the desire of people to celebrate the festivals. It's happening quite naturally at the Plant Medicine retreats, because what's happening is that these events are being held more and more frequently, aligning with the main Celtic events, such as spring equinox, Beltane, summer solstice, Lugnasad, which represent harvest time, autumn equinox, Samhain, and the winter solstice and Imbolc. So traditionally 8 times a year people come together to celebrate festivals. This is another part of this picture that I'm really keen to explain and promote to you. So now I want to mention something about 3 words, and the 3 words are touched, moved and inspired. What I want to share with you is that I'm finding that the response on the retreat participants is touching, moving and inspiring me to want to do something about creating a community together with like-minded people. And for myself, I'm finding that the Plant Medicine is the ideal common bond, because it aligns us with a love of nature, and it also enables us to get in touch with a multidimensional existence, so that we see that we are so much more than what we were taught by school and state. And so as we continue to walk round, I'm reminded by my great appreciation and respect for the landowner. This is his vision. This is his personal interpretation of how he sees paradise on earth to be. And there's been a very consistent theme over the last 20 years of him inhabiting this space, which is that of inviting people to come here and to be with the land and enjoy the facilities and enjoy being in nature. So we've almost completed our walk round, shortly arriving back at the table where we started. And so this is what I want to say to you. All over the world, people are feeling a longing, and the sense of separation they experience from living in their brick and stone houses is becoming more and more, to some people, it's just time for change. And so if you're interested in time for change, if that appeals to you, then what I suggest you do is to consider the people that you would like to be with and see what you can organise between each other. And this is my personal invitation to everyone who's ever been on a Plant Spirit Medicine retreat with me. If you're interested in taking this further, then please do get in touch with me. And I want to inform you that there's a most special occasion which is happening in the next retreat in May, the 2nd to the 5th. And this is going to be a bit of a celebration, as well as a Plant Spirit Medicine retreat. And I also want to mention the retreat that's just been and gone. I've had correspondence with 2 people, and it looks like 2 people are proposing marriage. So the love is really what all these retreats are all about. And thank you very much. Cheers.